those gospel-rich promises, the Corinthians were not thinking about those gospel-rich promises in the way that they ought to have been thinking about them. They were thinking about them wrongly. They had taken these spiritual blessings and the spiritual inheritance that they have in Christ and had translated it into temporal implications or consequences. So basically they're saying, since I'm a Christian, I ought to have a lot of money. Because I'm a Christian, the work I do as a plumber should be charged about 50% extra the work of a non-Christian or something along those lines. They thought they were entitled to this different set of rules because of their Christian faith. And the technical term for that is a term that you can hear now and never use it again. It's a term that maybe you can use if you want to sound smart, but it's really no use doing that. You'll just sound silly. The technical term is the term over-realized eschatology. And the word eschatology, you just think about it, it's from the Greek word eschatos, which means the last or the end. And so a person's eschatology, you may have heard this before, your eschatology is your thinking about the end times, the end of the world, when Jesus comes back. And so when a person has an over-realized eschatology, basically what that person has done is that he has taken the implications and the consequences of a future event, and he's brought them all the way back before the event actually took place. And then he takes the implications of that event and stretches them out beyond its actual scope. What do I mean by that? Well, as one West Texas philosopher put it, they were eating their dessert first. They had put the horse ahead of the cart. And you know what happens when you don't keep the cart in front of, you got to keep the horse behind the cart. Otherwise, you get things all messed up. And they had perverted the gospel because they took the blessings of what happens in life when Jesus returns, and they actually applied those blessings and expected those blessings before Jesus actually returned. So what do I mean? Well, believers believe that, Christians believe that someday Jesus will return. Christians believe that when Jesus comes back, everything that is sad will come untrue. Every wrong, every injustice will be made right. That when Jesus returns, sin and death will be finally and fully abolished, totally over. That when Jesus comes back, we will reign as kings with him. It will actually be a new kingdom, a new heavens and a new earth. And all of those things will be manifest. And all that's awesome. Those are gospel-rich promises that will happen someday, but not until that day will those things happen. So sure, it's true in some degree that the world is a better place because of the presence of Christians and the presence of Christ in culture. You see things like ministries of mercy, you see orphan care, adoption, you see Christian hospitals, Christian schools, mission trips, helping whole countries come out of poverty. You see all of those things. So it's true in some measure that the benefits of the return of Christ have preceded the return of Christ. But what these Corinthians were doing is that they were stretching it way beyond its healthy level. And Paul is saying, you guys got to cut it out. You're wrong-headed. You're messed up in the way that you're thinking about the future, the role that the church plays in the culture. You're all messed up. And when you do that, when you have an over-realized eschatology, when you refuse to keep the horse behind the cart, when you refuse to keep the cart behind the horse, it screws everything up. You get disenchanted. You get frustrated. You think that things aren't the way that they ought to be. And hey, isn't it true? I'm a Christian. Shouldn't I have a nice house? I'm a Christian. I was a real good. I didn't watch rated R movies. Shouldn't I have a really nice car like that other person has a really nice car? And you just get really frustrated and disenchanted with life. And Paul is just saying, you're thinking wrong. You need to gospel your expectations about the future.